out to be completely unreliable assholes.
Tim Taroo. How are you?
I'm good, Ryan. How are you?
Good to see you. And welcome everyone listening to episode 35 of Dismembering Horror.
That seems wrong.
Well, it's correct. Dismembering Horror, the podcast show where myself, Ryan McDuffie, and
myself, Tim Haslin,
we dismember horror. What does it mean to dismember, since there are no literal body parts here? Well, we talk about what worked for us, what did not work for us, and anything interesting or noteworthy that we found about these films.
Yep.
How do we find these films, Tim?
Well, we did a bunch of searching initially.
Yeah.
We wrote a bunch that we thought we wanted to watch down and made a list, but then we also opened that up to people's suggestions and got them to tell us things that they think we should watch and talk about. And then I printed out a piece of paper with that list on it, and I took a pair of scissors and I cut it up into little strips.
Yep. So we're still pulling from that hat today.
Yep.
And we have a list of new ones to print out soon and refill the hat with some more recommendations from people.
Yeah. How many do you think are still in this hat?
Good amount, like 30.
Oh, yeah. There's a ton. Holy crap.
Well,
wow.
And I don't know about you, Tim, or you who's listening, but my favorite is when we do one that someone submitted.
My favorite is when you say doo-doo.
Doo-doo. Poo-poo. Pee-pee. Great.
It's the simple things in life.
Right. Well, should we? Anything else you want to add to that?
Nope. I'm enjoying our journey together here.
I know. We're hunting for gold.
It's pretty fun.
Dug up some good ones recently. I think we've been on a good streak here. I loved Dead and after the sinkhole of Evil Ed, I loved Dead and Buried. Ghost Ship was more fun than I thought. Cat People I thought was great. Us was solid. Calvera is one of my new favorites. Mom and Dad, fun yarn.
What a romp.
Romp, there you go. Much more a romp than a yarn. And then today brings us to, should we play the trailer for it?
Yeah, let's do it.
For Julia's Eyes, a.k.a. Los Ojos de Julia.
Los. And also, it's The Eyes of Julia. That's what I thought it was called.
Literally translated. Julia's Eyes.
Julia. Según me han informado, sufría de una enfermedad degenerativa.
Una pérdida progresiva de la visión. Como mi mujer.
¿Y si no estaba sola? ¿Y si estaba con alguien?
Julia, sabes que no te conviene angustiarte.
Mi hermana vino aquí con un hombre, ¿no?
El hombre invisible. Un vacío. Una ausencia.
¿Cómo quiere que encontremos a un hombre al que nadie parece haber visto? Ni siquiera usted.
¿Sabes que hay alguien que vigila todos nuestros movimientos?
Julia, por Dios. ¿Quién?
¿Quién eres?
Well, there we have it.
What other we've watched? Rec 2 was another Spanish film we've watched, and we did Errementari, the Blacksmith and the Devil. That was a Spanish filmmaker, right? Even though it was in Basque.
Yeah.
Is that it?
I'm looking really quickly. I think
Yeah.
so. Yeah, that's it. That's it, right?
Yeah, out of our
yeah, because Rec 2 and Errementari were back to back.
Oh yeah, kind of fun.
That was just
fun.
coincidental. And then I guess the next closest thing, like European, that we did was Opera and Deep Red, but not Spanish.
and Evil Ed.
Yeah. 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 God,
All right.
It's funny. I don't even think of Evil Ed as a foreign film.
I know.
But it definitely is.
So
foreign to us.
I've done some recent summaries here, Tim. I want to plug into your head. Can you do the summary?
Yeah.
Boy, make me happy.
Boy, can I. Here we go. Okay. The Eyes of Julia. Julia's Eyes is a movie about being blind and what is seen and what is unseen in the world. But it follows the story of a woman named Julia, whose sister,
Julia,
sharing a degenerative eye sight vision disease, Sarah, ends up dying under questionable circumstances. She hangs herself. But did she do it, or did maybe somebody else do it? And so Julia and her husband, Isaac, go on a little bit of a journey of discovery while Julia's eyes degenerate. And, it's a mystery. It's a little bit of a whodunit. And that's kind of it. I don't want to, everything else is like a discovery in the movie.
Right, but this isn't a
No, I know. I'm just saying at its core, it's a story of a woman who's trying to figure out who killed her sister.
Right. But we should mention, which I don't think we have for a while with this show, we're assuming that and talking as if you've seen it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we haven't said that much lately, have we?
So we try to recreate the experience of, as we say in our description, have you like horror movies, but you don't have a fellow fiend to talk to.
Yeah.
It was kind of, this is trying to keep alive the dream of binging horror movies and then kind of breaking them down afterwards. So we hope you can enjoy us in that process more or less. But hey, if you haven't, you still get something out of listening to it, then great.
Was that summary weirdly disjointed? It felt like it to me. Julia's Eyes. The story of Julia.
There. Great summary, Tim.
I don't know. I don't know what else you say. Do you have anything to add to that? Is there something important that I'm missing here?
I just think what the actual story is, it's about a woman who's being sort of manipulated by a guy who has serious issue, serious invisible man syndrome, to the point where he
she's definitely being stalked.
He's manipulating, he's satisfying his need to be needed by being a caretaker towards blind people, by making them blind or lying to them they're blind, right?
Right, but don't you think that plot point is so kind of late in the story that is it really a part of the how you would summarize the story? How I would summarize I guess so. It depends.
That's the greater story to me, but the movie, to give a summary to the movie, I would put it as it's a woman who is the whole movie is being told that she's wrong, or she's being left alone.
Yeah. Oh, yes. The whole movie is just people being you wait here.
Yeah.
By yourself.
You're crazy. Don't believe that. Yeah. Or the whole movie. That's what the whole movie for me was predicated on. Those two ideas.
Yeah. You're losing your eyesight and you might be a little vulnerable. Stay here by yourself while I go do something, because I'm a man.
So to plug into my take on the movie, that's what the summary is for. That was my summary of the movie, and then what I said before that was the summary of the story, as far as mentioning more the guy's perspective, the crazy person's perspective.
Yeah. Cool. Well, let's rate it.
All right.
You go.
Oh God, Tim. I was leaning towards stream it because the ending was fun.
Okay.
We had a wonderful, horror movie terms, gore moment.
Yeah.
But God, if I'm how I'm feeling right now and how it settled with me, and this is how our rating system works, is what we could tell ourselves. If I could go back and tell Ryan to avoid it, stream it, rent it, or buy it, I would tell myself to avoid it.
Oh, shit. Damn,
I'm throwing down the gauntlets with this one.
Ooh.
Throwing down the gloves.
You gotta be true to yourself.
Yeah. Try to do me, man.
Wow. Yeah, there's just enough enjoyment that I got out of watching this for me to say stream it. But as you'll find out, in our discussion, I don't have a lot to say about what worked, which is kind of weird. But I enjoyed watching it. So that's a weird place to be, but it's a stream. It's like
I enjoyed
think
watching
people will
the
like
ending.
watching it. Yeah, there are like singular moments that I had fun with.
Well, here's my in summary of why I felt that way. Just put into perspective. Other bad movies we've watched that were pretty detestable. I include
that's an interesting
Insidious 4. So as angry as I was during Insidious 4, I was never bored.
Okay. I didn't feel super bored. Well, was I bored during this?
I did.
Yeah, sometimes.
But I think that's a differentiation between us. I want to talk about more further down the line after we've explored the ins and outs of what worked and didn't work for us.
I mean, I will bring up this although we need to fill in some of these, but just looking at the past, we have a couple movies. One, two, three. We have at least 3 movies that both of us said avoid to.
Yeah.
And I think Insidious was probably...
I think that was the first one.
Ooh,
I think I may have said stream it sort of back then, thinking in terms of other people.
Yeah. So The Cured, we both said avoid.
Oh my God. That was a much stronger avoid than this one.
Yeah. Maggie, we both said avoid.
Ditto. Much stronger avoid than this
and
one.
Arnold, we both said avoid.
On par avoid with this one for me.
Okay. Wow, that's crazy to think about. That Arnold and this live in the same...
Well, let's break it down. Let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
Okay, what worked for us?
What worked for you? What worked for you?
It worked like a charm, Smith.
What worked for you?
Yeah, kind of like I said, that like I liked watching this, but like it's got so many problems from like when you start to pick it apart. But having said that, the things I liked were kind of, they're broad, like the tone of it and the sort of the crawling suspense of it.
Yeah.
So it's all kind of a feel thing, which I think ultimately just boils down to like the mood I was in when I was watching it, and like just being cool with sitting back and getting into the vibe of that the movie was presenting.
Right. Well, I can kind of second all that when keying into what you say, about the tone and the feel. Mm-hmm. That the opening shot and the shot after the opening shot had a tone and feel that really worked for me, which was, if you remember, it was like over the opening credits was this sort of a shot of the sky. And I think the moon coming through it. Yeah. And then we cut to kind of those like nice but tract homes, that it takes place in.
Yep.
Kind of
Every
old
house
Spanish
looks
style.
Exactly the same.
Yeah, but still looks like something, you'd see in old Pasadena. They had porches, were nice.
Yeah.
Dark wallpaper. But those...
Yeah, don't you dare shoot those walls white.
You said, like, I love this already, and I was on board with you when you said that, because there was such a distinct, like, tone and feel that I was like, great. That's... I don't want to skip ahead, but that just didn't end up being there in the rest of the film for me. Mm-hmm. But as far as what worked for me, that in itself did. Yeah,
there's that's your job, right? You need to set a tone early on, and sort of follow through with that and give us some twists and turns and whatever, but the tone should sort of be consistent.
Yeah.
So like the filming, the actual like look of it, I even said, I was like, God, this looks so good. And what I mean by that is like the resolution is super sharp, and everything is clean, and everything sort of has, you know, a good non-blemished. It's just really crisp. And I was like, ooh, this is pleasing. It's lit consistently, and it's lit well, in quotes. I'm going to say well in quotes.
And colored consistently.
And exactly. The
green.
color is very consistent. Yeah, it's a cold coloring to it. In the greens and the blues and the grays. And the characters all look like, oh man, this is a slippery slope.
What?
I like them.
Yeah.
I like their personas.
Yeah.
I like what they're giving me.
That is
like
something.
I'm enjoying them.
Spanish films, as far as what I've seen and what we've watched, I do commend the casting as far as it's not like they're like character actors in the most satisfying sense, you know?
So all that's working for me. I think there's a lot of really nice camera movement. They're like the use of the motivated and unmotivated camera I enjoyed, because there are times when I'm like, you know, we're floating a little bit, and there's just they're not sticking the camera down on sticks and like having it just stationary, you know, back and forth in a conversation. There's
deliberate shots,
very deliberate, constant kind of floating, moving, like, and it creates a nice sense of eeriness and a nice sense of like tension and suspense at times. And there's beautiful shots, like when she's chasing the dude through the the blind center, the where she goes to the blind center to kind of spy on the women that are gossiping about her sister's death. And then the one woman says, you know, why'd you bring a man in here with you? And she's like, I'm alone. And then she chases
that was
dude.
Actually probably the best scene in the movie.
I think it might have been. And it is so cool looking. Like, even the setup of it, like when she's just there and the women who are gossiping about her are all very like eerie looking. And like they're, of course, a couple of them, their eyes are totally cataract over, and it creates its like living zombie feel, which I think is a nice, cool, broader.
Yeah.
There's a lot of commentary on, you know, blindness, maybe acutely on blindness, but it opens sort of this broader conversation about like how we treat people who are different or like having some sort of affliction or whatever.
You're jumping around. I want to.
Sorry. So what I'm getting at is that scene had a lot going on. It felt visually really cool. It was really eerie. The women were creepy.
Well,
and then we go into the hallway and the chase of it, and I was like, the lights coming on and like flickering. All of that looks so fucking good.
That was a good example of what this film did well as far as playing with darkness.
Yeah.
How we see it, and actually use that digital sheen to its advantage as far as what can we just make visible or not visible.
Yeah, the effect of her sort of blindness encroaching, you know, as it's coming in, using that artifacting that you get in digital to, you know, kind of manipulate that and like have it look like light is swirling a little bit.
I should have put that. I should have put that as far as it did really well. The idea of like air displacement.
Yeah.
With a cool visual for that. Since we're talking about how it was shot, I just wanted to add, or I thought it was worth mentioning now, something I put down, which was the filmic portrayal of not showing people's faces when she's in blind person mode.
Yes.
So she's not the whole movie she's blind. She's losing her sight progressively throughout it. And when she finally has had the operation, she can't see anything. She's full blind mode.
Bandaged.
Right. So just it was a unique opportunity that it saw through of like, how do we sort of not have her literal perspective, which it did do, but when she's literally blind, how do we have a sort of filmic portrayal perspective of putting her in the headspace of feeling people's presence, seeing people on camera, but never seeing their faces, which sort of gives you that sort of hesitancy to trust almost. So definitely. I thought that was pretty effective as far as putting us in her emotional state.
I agree. I totally loved that choice and device to create more of the question mark on what's going on. And it gets us on board with her and her vulnerability.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's leaving a thing out of our knowledge. It's a question.
Gets us on board 2/3 through the film.
Yes.
Sorry.
This is true. So beyond those things, it's all kind of little specifics. I like the performance of the bad guy ultimately when he is revealed. I think he's cool and creepy and gives a good performance. I like the action, even though it's very sparing, but when it happens, I enjoyed the fights and the sort of the gore of a couple moments. It's pretty limited, but when it happened, I was like, fucking cool. And I like the little things that are kind of placed around that are like clues, but they're not that big a deal. Like, it's not like a revelatory clue. It's like the keys. I think it all just adds to a tone of mystery that I personally like. It feels kind of Hitchcockian of like, mystery. What is this? Does it lead to something? Is it a red herring? Like, where are we going? And all of those things are just pleasing to me. Does it add up to, in this case, a good movie? Obviously, we didn't end up feeling that way because we didn't say, fuck, it's the greatest, you got to buy it. So it's good in its sort of individuality of those things. I like all those things. It didn't all pay off necessarily, but I honestly, there's not a whole lot more that I liked. Like that specifically worked for me.
Well, you mentioned the performance of who ends up, as the bad guy once we actually sort of are witnessing him as a full-fledged person, fleshed person, not an invisible man. But, I gave the story summary from his perspective. Mm-hmm. Kind of like, Insidious 4. Remember I said, well, I actually liked the story. A key demon coming to collect souls. That is a cool story itself. So this, if you break it down to the story of, I'll try to put it better here. But yeah, someone who, due to their insecurities about being unloved and unseen, manipulates people and their ability to see. Right?
He creates his own pathology around his how he feels in the world in regards to like being seen or not.
That in itself, I like.
It's a great concept.
Yes.
It is a great concept.
Right.
Unfortunately, I think it meanders and is muddied, and
I'm excited to talk about that.
But
what did not work.
Yeah, but before we jump into that,
I have
there's
a couple more things.
One really specific thing that I fucking love. Do you know what it is? Can you guess?
Was it the body horror of the eye being stabbed?
Fuck yes!
With a needle? Because I have that too, Tim.
It is the best.
How many times in films have we always been afraid of like an eye being stabbed and it showing that? There's a couple famous examples, but this was just sort of a modern, does not shy away, very viscerally well done.
It did a thing that I think we can learn from in the future. Mm-hmm. You know that it's coming, right? The setup is full. We've established that he has these tools, the syringe and whatever. We've been told that what he does with those things is literally inject, whatever fucking something into the eye that causes the ocular nerve to decay or die. So we know exactly what he's going to do. But then it does another thing, which I think is really fucking smart, which is it shows an obscured view of him, like a POV of him leaning in to administer the shot into the eye. And I think what that did was make me go, oh no, they're going to do it off camera. I get why they do it because it's super graphic. And it sort of gave me this moment of like, not disappointment, but like, oh, shucks, that's too bad. They're not going to do it. And then they do it. So like by kind of fooling us into thinking maybe they won't show it, when they turn the camera around and actually show it, they...
Wait, who does he do it to again?
His mom.
That's what I thought, yeah.
So there's that moment of possible disappointment, and then they turn it around, and not only do they go in and do it, you know, show us a version of it, they show us the full version, where it's like you see because often we see like the needle or the knife or whatever getting really close to the eye, and you don't see the moment of like impact.
I think it was especially justified because it's sort of about, whether it's Julia or the mom in this case, both of them are faking being blind at certain points. So the mom here, it kind of actually, it was justified being shown in a way, because after seeing someone who's faking being blind, we sort of pay attention to how are they acting with their eye, you know, where are they looking, how are they pretending they aren't looking. So it's just to sort of see an eye responding to outside stimuli. You know, it felt like it was relevant in a way to see it.
Well, and that's right. Up until that point, shit, now I don't remember.
The mom was faking,
That moment happens after... Does that happen after
I don't know,
he's
Tim, whatever, man.
That she can see? Because he puts the knife up to her eye. I don't remember if that happens before or after. But anyway, my point is that like when you can be savvy about how you kind of toy with the audience leading up to a really big, you know, moment like that. And I think they did a good job of kind of teasing us and then following through and making the shock of it full.
Yeah.
So I was psyched. I yelled.
Can I just kind of bust out the last things that worked for me?
Mm-hmm.
All right. The when she discovered that she could see in the last act, and having the moments where she's having to fake it, that she can see but is pretending like she can't, because we know that the bad guy is so smart and just sort of is always, you know, the sort of 2 steps ahead kind of villain planner or whatever. It was just fun to see her trying to, you know, convince him that she can see. I thought that was fun and hadn't seen that before. And then I liked the just technically well done, I thought, was the camera flashes revealing the pitch black scene. That was neat. And then the ending, I kind of touched on this how sort of as a story as a whole, you know, I liked it from, you know, when we talk about the guy's situation. So I liked how he killed himself, you know, when he was being seen for the first time.
Right.
As if that in itself was something so just sort of, I don't want to say like horrifying in the sort of like, you can see me, but I attach it to like that kind of person. My kind of psychological read on him is it's more a kind of like, I have so little self-worth that I almost feel guilty for taking up your visual space and mental space by existing. So to have all of a sudden the police, who don't see him at first, it seems like, even though she has the flashlight right on him, once he's finally seen, he kills himself. And I just thought that was a kind of a good, a loaded moment. Yeah,
I think whenever you have sort of you're pointing at, you know, you've established this sort of psychosis or pathology that the bad guy or whoever really has, when their construct that they've created is being broken, basically he can't live with the truth, right? If that becomes his new truth, you know, he doesn't have a choice. He's like, this is too much. Like the spell that he's created or cast on himself is now broken. And so he can't live with it anymore. Yeah. And I like that. It's a satisfying sort of thing. It also does a thing that I'm sometimes cool with, sometimes not, but it's sort of this trope of like, you don't want I have problems with this in certain realms, but you don't want your lead character to lose their purity in a sense by being the hand that exacts, you know, the death upon somebody depends on the story totally. When that's necessary, when it's unnecessary.
Yeah,
but in this sense, like, she doesn't kill him, right?
It was more impactful and meaningful to have him kill himself.
Yeah, and that can be good. I think it can be done, it's often done the opposite, where they prevent especially women from exacting revenge through killing the bad guy, and even worse, sometimes having a man stop the woman from doing it. I think you shouldn't do that version of it. I think that's shitty. But this one felt fine because of the context of where it was happening. And, like, you know, in a certain, you could say she should fucking kill this guy. I mean, he effectively killed her sister and her husband, so she should.
It was cool and more telling that what she cared about wasn't his death. It was proving to the authority who had been foiling him, proving to the men who had been so distrusting of her,
so
that, hey, this guy's real. I wasn't being a crazy lady who's seeing this.
So given that context, it's actually more powerful to have this version of it. So I appreciated that for sure.
Yeah.
Good catch.
Cool. Shall we move on?
Yeah.
All right. What did not work?
It's not ready yet.
Seems to work okay.
No, something important's missing.
What did not work?
So why did it, Tim, have to be so horror-y? That starts to...
Why did it have to be so horror-y? I don't know what you mean.
Well, why not, like, you know, I said that story itself was good, so why not just be like an out-and-out thriller or suspense movie in that regard? Like, it could have been way more tense, suspenseful but it just felt like it was sort of fake-out ghost movie that never delivered on that, you know? It was nor was it you know, ever a twist where it's like, oh, it's not some supernatural paranormal ghost. And even if it was, it wouldn't be an interesting one.
God, I don't even know where to sort of begin to answer that. There's just a bunch of problems with... It's just so fucking murky and meandering.
Yep, that too.
I just don't know.
Okay, yeah, here's
know.
My two main qualms with it are what I'm saying now, where it's like, okay, I get how it's maybe trying to do something interesting with, like, the invisible person, kind of like turn that into kind of a monster or or something scary.
Oh,
but
yeah,
when
and
it comes
they say
down,
that thing of, like, the monster, they're trying to, like, push on that idea. The girl
like,
says he's a monster.
Her the hand grabbing her shoulder, you know, feels more paranormal. But it felt like, even though I love Scooby-Doo, but you remember there's always the part of you that's disappointed it's not actually a monster at the end.
Sure.
That felt like this whole movie for me. Like,
Yeah.
it could have been more interesting from the perspective of if it was the invisible person. Which actually, I wanted to compare it to another Spanish film that I saw and really, really liked. It was actually a recommendation on a Shudder curated list by Kumal Nanjini.
Okay.
I think is his name. And it's called Sleep Tight, or Mientras Duermes.
I don't know.
And it's this thriller about this guy who's like kind of a misanthrope to the extreme, who basically just gets off on like how much can he sort of lie and manipulate to these people. He's the tenant in a building, and he kind of like gets in all their lives and stuff like that. But it's from his perspective. It's super, super tense because it's just sort of like how far down this sort of like story of lies can he pull off kind of thing. I have
heard of this.
It was really good like that. So I felt like, I don't know. This movie could have been that direction where it's just versus trying to be kind of like a fake out ghost movie procedural. Like, I don't know. That's
the problem. Actually, you're hitting on it. It's trying to do too many things.
Yeah.
It's not honed in to say, okay, we're gonna do this. We're gonna like stick to this thing. Because once you make that decision, say you've decided it is paranormal or it's not, whatever that thing is, once you've honed in on it singularly, you can then very cleanly misdirect. But this one almost feels like they hadn't quite. I mean, I guess they've decided, they know that the killer is the killer and whatever, but their misdirections around that are they're sending us in all sorts of weird directions, and it just is, it's never on a path.
They were just kind of like, so what for me? They didn't actually make it more suspenseful at all. And so like I was kind of saying, so what I tried to say there is, you know, I said two things that were kind of, if I tried to summarize what wasn't work, was that. And then also kind of where I tailed off at the end there was saying how it was a procedural, but that was like a good example for me how none of that was actually interesting. I was so bored to tears. It felt like a very the proceedings procedural where I just didn't care about the details. It wasn't like I was having fun putting together this greater mystery. It was kind of watching stuff happen. And this was to sort of sum up that, this was an example for me with that context of where it's when it's about more things going on, the movie is about a lot less.
Yeah.
Like, we just watched Calvert, which you know I loved and is my style.
Yes.
Think about how little happened.
That's right.
But yet, because of that, how much was going on.
Yeah, and how much you can kind of pull out of it.
Yeah, how much the moments are weighted. This was just kind of like, okay, whatever. She's going there. She figured out this thing. I don't care. It's not scary. It's not suspenseful.
Yeah, and it's really indicative of a problem if you have to have a character show up in the, like, toward the third act or the end of the second act and literally tell you what's going on.
Yeah.
Like, the little girl has to show up and go, hey, just so you know, I've been watching you, and here's what's actually going on.
Yeah.
You've been wrong this whole time, or whatever you've been thinking has been sort of left of center.
Right.
Here's the deal. Let me tell you.
Why not just start the movie with that, you know?
I mean, fuck, dude. That sucks. I mean, if that's
when
where
it
you
picked
have
up.
to do it,
Yeah.
that's a problem.
You see, that's but when that little girl gave that exposition, it was finally like, okay, we've arrived at a movie that I care about now, you know?
But that is bad writing. Like, really, I mean, at the end of the day, if you have to have an extra character tell your protagonist what's happening, and the protagonist can't, like, it's so passive, right?
Or
like,
play it more for like she's putting it that puts herself in a difficult position. I mean, which it did, as far as like, who do I trust?
Right. That was the attempt.
But it was kind of just like, oh yeah, okay, I guess I'll go with her because that makes sense and because the audience is rooting for it. But like, that could have, I don't know, that could have come way sooner.
Yeah.
And another way to kind of maybe sum it up, like when she said, and maybe not so specific to what I was saying before, but I definitely experienced when she stabs him. Mm-hmm. And you're like, why stab him there in the leg?
Yeah, like in the leg. Why
and
not
I'm like, in order for there to be a final showdown scene. It just was one of those moments where, like, what does it actually add? It just sort of is like this obligatory, they're going to run around the house a little bit because she could have killed him better. It was that kind of frustrating. Like, I thought we killed that with Scream. No pun intended. Yeah.
Like, if you can say she has the opportunity to end this cleanly.
Yeah.
There's a huge problem.
But isn't that
and
like
doesn't. That's a problem,
horror
right?
movie 101 we're here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So give it, you know, I think the most satisfying moments in horror are when you see that the person has the opportunity and the opportunity gets fucked up.
Right.
That's so much more exciting.
And if it was the moment, that's enough of her just stabbing him close up. That's huge to happen. And maybe missing a little at first, like in a way that's realistic and having to see it through. They don't need to have this cat and mouse around the house. Like, sorry,
I agree.
You know what I mean?
I do agree. I think that it's sort of in the third act, it kind of became an exercise of them being like, hey, remember in this movie when this cool thing happened? Let's like do that.
Yeah.
You know, I think we mentioned this maybe before, but the movie Wait Until Dark.
I don't know.
I think that's what it's called. Yeah, Wait Until Dark. It's Audrey Hepburn and Alan Arkin.
I haven't seen it.
It is fucking amazing.
Cool.
It is so fucking good.
I want to see more
Everybody
movies
needs
with her.
to see that. So in that movie, she's blind. The whole setup is Audrey Hepburn's blind. Her husband she feels like he's acting a little odd and peculiar, and he goes off and leaves her for, I think, a weekend alone at home. But she's totally capable. She is, you know, her blindness is a non-issue in her life. And a series of events starts happening where people start showing up at her place, and it's a different guy. You know, there's like a delivery guy, and then there's like a guy who's posing as a detective, and it's all at Alan Arkin. And he's playing multiple characters because he wants to break into her house and steal something that her husband has. And so we watch Alan Arkin give this incredible series of performances pretending to be different people to fool her because she's blind. And it culminates with...
I don't want to know.
Well, I'm just going to say it culminates with one of the... I think great horror moments of it's not a horror moment, it's a suspense moment.
Okay.
That is so fucking awesome. That the final act of that movie is brilliant.
So that sounds like a really good example of
clean,
building
simple, right to the point.
Yes, absolutely. But what I was going to say was like building tension throughout, like a prolonged setup that builds tension. This movie, Los Ojos de Julia, it just felt like it was all set up with no tension within that setup.
Sure.
You know, like, horror, I don't know, sort of effective horror movies, it can be sort of all like suspense, you know, setup. It's that tension. It's that building of tension. This was like, it was trying to have its cake and eat it too, in a way.
Well, right. And that's sort of what I'm getting at, is that in the third act, it felt like they were kind of going, oh yeah, remember Wait Until Dark? Like, let's try and do our version of that, but also let's do a little bit of Silence of the Lambs, because that final bit of Silence of the Lambs is really cool. You know what I mean? You're playing with like, maybe I'm just pulling that out of because those things are better executed versions of moments when the protagonist can't see, and playing around with the visual of that. But either way, it felt derivative.
Well, I mean,
that's the problem.
I was trying to hone in more on just that first hour or whatever of the film.
Well, that's for sure.
Like that's, I mean, in comparison, you know, Silence of the Lambs, a procedural done very, 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 very well for the first hour. So what do you think was different about that first hour versus this hour?
Well, oh God, that's a tough question. I mean, it's a big question. I think we know and understand the characters, and they have more agency in Silence of the Lambs. Mm-hmm. And
what made the procedural aspect feel more engaging and pertinent and
well, there are clear markers of progress in Silence of the Lambs. Mm-hmm. You know, she has a conversation. She's given a case. She has a conversation with Hannibal Lecter that is vague, but gives her just enough to go on something. She goes on that thing and discovers a thing, right? She discovers the head in the garage, right? Then she comes back and she's like, you're fucking with me. So there's this sort of clear back and forth. This, Julie's Eyes, it's like she doesn't have somebody to kind of like anchor her questions to. You think maybe it would be her husband, but he is like super kind of...
He says, don't make me be the controlling husband, and that's all he is.
Right. And so it's almost like we needed another thing for her to bounce her thoughts off of, maybe. Which
could have been cool if that little girl was in it more from the get-go.
Could have been her, could have been the mom. Maybe that would have made that mom twist that she's also his Angel's mom.
The level at which the sort of psychology is revealed and delved into in Silence of the Lambs feels actually like smart and realistic.
Yeah.
And this kind of felt like Hollywood bleh.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't use that term. I love old Hollywood, Tim, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, I think there's a problem in having a character who's kind of... I think it's almost too... not cliche, but it's dismissive in a way. It's like, oh, well, she's blind, so she can't find her way. Mm-hmm. And then they play that up where it should sort of be the opposite.
You just reminded me just like of another like, I just hate this movie moment was when you remember how there's the rope going to the neighbor's house?
Yeah.
And that's like very thoroughly set up.
Yeah.
And so do you remember when she finds it the second time and there's this shot where it like shows her find it and give this like obvious, like for the audience, aha, here's the rope. Like I just hate that so much. Like Jesus,
hand-holding.
I get it. Stop.
Well, and that's actually, I think, a bigger, more to the point problem in general. Make your fucking characters smart. Don't make them fucking dumb. Don't make them do dumb stuff. Like you can
I don't
make
think
them,
that was dumb in herself. It was just the sort of portrayal that was. I was talking about with the movie.
I agree. I agree. I'm sort of taking it one step further into saying that, like, you know, they don't have to. I don't know. When she acknowledges that thing, it makes me feel like she's not dumb, but she's sort of like, it's for the audience.
That's
it's
what
a
I was
nod.
saying.
I don't like
that. It's a forced aha that she would never
so
actually really do.
By virtue of that character then is no longer a person. They're sort of a cardboard cutout.
Yes.
And that's what I mean. So dumb may be the wrong word. Don't make them fucking simple. Like don't make them a caricature or a cardboard cutout.
That's what I was trying to say. Was
them
that
fucking super smart?
Right. That's what I was saying was the difference between
trouble.
this and Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, definitely. They can get in trouble and they can lead themselves in the wrong direction. But make it because they fucking think they know what's up.
Yeah.
Right. That's more exciting. And then we go, oh fuck. Like if we're ahead of them, it can work, but they can't be we're ahead of them because they're just being knuckleheads.
Right.
And I didn't think she was like overtly.
No, she wasn't at all stupid. As far as like her, if I had to describe the character.
But I don't think she ever had a clear point of view.
I
maybe
thought that was more about the movie being stupid, or not trusting its audience.
Yeah.
There it is. She found remember the rope? Oh, we're going to show you remembering it.
Well, and I wonder if it's too sort of just a stylistic thing of like,
it is.
You know, European audience is more into that stuff.
No, because look at Calvert. That was European.
Yeah, but
look at Rec and Rec 2 done
I guess
so well.
I'm saying the filmmakers think that that's what the audience is into.
I associate that with American films and audiences, to be honest.
So maybe the filmmakers think this is what American films do.
I think this was them trying to make like a mainstream Sony Screen Gems movie. Right. You know,
interesting. Yeah. So I don't know. It just sort of fell flat all around in that construction.
I thought it was so obvious. Both the neighbor who ended up being the creepy dude and then the other neighbor who ended up being the mom. It was just like, as soon as both of them came on respectively, it was like, okay, there's more to meets the eye when this person, it's going to be some little twist with them. Whatever. I'm already past it. I don't care.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's all a little on the nose, I guess.
Yeah.
Even the melodrama of it. Like I want to go to the Sahara and look at the
it was so
universe through your eyes.
Oh my god, that ending.
So that whole thing, I don't know. It's not for me.
Here was an example of like where
it's for somebody, right?
It's the tone being a little too self-serious. An example of that was when think of how the little girl was in opera. The little girl who I don't know if this is quite common enough to be an archetype, but I described it as Newt-esque, the swift moving survival girl who like in opera is the one like like Newt and Aliens
air vents.
Going through the air vents, the air ducts. And then this girl here in this movie is like going around the two houses somehow, kind of like in corridors, it feels like, or just sort of has a lay of the land. So in opera, it wasn't so self-serious that it felt like, I don't know, there was something kind of fun about the girl's presence, you know? It was like in a more, like, it wasn't realistic, but it was kind of like fun movie. Versus this, I couldn't have that same amount of fun with it for whatever reason. It just kind of felt like forced and...
Yeah.
Oh, you know, she's this kind of girl. Oh, so...
Here's what it is. Actually, I forgot that this was the thing I kept thinking while we were watching it. Every dumb moment and dumb decision is just to push the plot forward. And that is basically the opposite of what you want.
Yeah.
Right? Every single fucking time a guy goes, stay here, I'll be right back. I'll take care of this. Something happens to her. That's moving the story forward, right? So theoretically, if she had not stayed there, she had gone with the guy to deal with whatever they're dealing, then the movie ends.
Yeah.
That can't be the way your movie works. It just can't.
Nope.
It doesn't fucking...
That's what I was saying.
It's
The
so
whole movie
unsatisfying.
was predicated on that.
Right. And so it's too much of its contrivances pushing the plot forward. The girl is a contrivance to push the plot forward to get to a point where we can tell you what's happening.
Right.
So that's just where it all falls apart. It sucks. It's too bad.
To bring it all back around, maybe in summation here, it was just like I mentioned, the opening shot working so well. There was a distinct mood there. There was a distinct feel there. But as soon as the movie started, it just got mired in all this stuff we're mentioning.
Yeah, and even our favorite scene, let's say, the chase, the little chase, suffers a little bit of this. It's like... I even said, I was like, don't fucking run after him by yourself. That's fucking dumb. Like, don't do that.
This felt like it just made me want to watch the Ring remake, the US Ring.
Sure.
Where that was a really good balance for me of like a sustaining and eerie tone.
Yeah.
While having a procedural that feels well enough paced and I'm actually sort of involved in it because there is this greater supernatural mystery you can really never get to the bottom of.
How do you think this movie would have felt if in the moment when at the very end the cops show up and she's shining a flashlight on him and she's like, there he is, do you see him? And the cops just go, no, like, what are you talking about?
Right.
Like this, come on.
I think that in itself is a way more interesting moment, but then you'd have to change the rest of the movie to reflect that. Maybe,
yeah. I don't know where you go from there, but it would be... I would feel like I would be like, it's so much... And I said this at one point, I was like, God, this place, this whole environment everywhere they are, the look of it and everything is so bleak.
Yeah.
I think I want a bleak ending to this movie if it's going to be that.
But again, it's just a dude who had a messed up mom, messed up childhood, who's messed up himself.
Right.
And he's portrayed as like a boogeyman at first, kind of, maybe.
Yeah. Also, my last thing is, what fucking house is this that has like metal corrugated like security things that come down on all the doors and windows?
Maybe it's in the same universe that Rec took place in. This is the Rec future.
I guess. Like
they're demon proof.
Yeah, they never set that up. So I sort of was like, when she tried to leave toward the end and she's like, oh, all of the windows have this.
They probably mentioned it. This is, we were reading subtitles.
Is that a thing?
We might have missed it at some point. Whatever.
Anyway, so that's all. I don't know. That's all I got.
Things of note.
Belabor it. Yeah.
Things of note.
Yeah.
Things of note.
This should be interesting.
So, who did grab her shoulder then?
I'm assuming it was fake Ivan. Angel. His name's Angel.
But it was like an older man hand.
It did seem like that, didn't it?
And she flipped around and it was all just open space. Is it like if we saw it from a wider shot, Ivan would have been down there with a fake hand, like on the ground, just out of her blind peripheral?
He's invisible, dude.
Yeah, but except not actually.
Right. Yeah, I don't know.
That was in the trailer we just watched too, that moment.
I know. I think we're supposed to think that, just like suspension of disbelief a bit, that the hand, there's maybe a few, 10 seconds between the hand being there and her looking up and seeing her husband off in the distance, and he's already walked away.
I know this comes across as another what did not work, but I thought that was more just a thing of note. So, okay, well then who did? What was this moment?
Right.
Actually.
So, okay, there's not a whole lot in my mind, but I think one of the more interesting things is, and the thing that I liked about this movie is the cinematography. So I was like, well, who did this? Is it somebody interesting or that we've heard of before? And it is. His name's Oscar Faura, I think is how you would say it. And he's actually kind of interesting dude. So he shot the movie The Orphanage, which I think is a much better movie. If you haven't seen that. He also shot The Impossible, which I never watched, but I guess was supposed to be pretty good.
That was the survival of the tsunami movie?
Yep, Naomi Watts and Ewan McGregor.
Yeah, I did want to see that.
And he also, let's see, here we go. His career is really picked up. So he did, like I said, so he also was the camera op on a movie we enjoyed, Rec 2.
Oh.
So he was one of the dudes doing the hard ass shit that they did. Because a camera op's job is largely pulling focus. And imagine pulling focus on Rec 2. And that was one of the things we had said, right? Because there's so much movement in that camera work.
Such a ballet.
That dude is fucking obviously real good at what he does. So then, just to go down the things he's done since Julia's Eyes, The Impossible, like I said, a movie called Mindscape, which I don't know about, Imitation Game, which is great, A Monster Calls, which I didn't see but looks really cool. I remember watching the promo for, and he did the most recent Jurassic World. He shot it, which is not a good movie, but it does look cool. So
it has its defenders. I am not one of them.
Me neither. So, cool dude. Like, that guy's awesome.
I thought it was kind of fun watching and interesting seeing like the slight differences in the translation just in dialect.
Sure.
I meant to recommend some examples, but when someone it shows up on the subtitles hello, but then in Spanish it's actually something else that's just sort of contextually. I noticed
a couple of those. Yeah. I don't really know Spanish.
I know just enough I could like understand half of it if it was like twice the speed, or twice as slow. That was always interesting. It was fun, and kind of knowing basic Spanish and being able to sort of look away and notice differences. That was interesting and noteworthy and fun. The biggest thing of note, which maybe is less a point. I was thinking more, this felt more noteworthy, but we can still dive into it. It sounded like you were still, even though you didn't give it the avoid, it sounded like you still largely agreed with me on all my points.
Pretty much, yeah.
But I still think this sort of was a glimmer into what we don't get too often, is into where our tastes differ. Mm-hmm. We've had the clear Willard differentiation where I acknowledge those traits in me of Willard, and you're just like, weird, don't go there. Don't want to see that in yourself. It's scary for you to see that in yourself. I get it. But remember the difference is, in me liking Ju-on and you not, where it's like you sort of, like at the beginning of this review, you sort of said like, in essence, though, you still enjoy a kind of like the tone of a sort of doling out of information for me, or sorry, for you. But for me, it's like all of that is just, I just don't care.
Sure.
And that's why with the Ju-on sort of that being confusing, or just sort of not a lot of attention put into that, I was not bothered at all, and in fact liked it better, where it sort of heightens, the stuff that's happening, that's actually happening.
See, I love a mystery. Yeah. I love a mystery. And so this gave enough of that kind of ride, and like of allowing me to sort of want to solve the puzzle. Yeah. That even though by the end I was sort of like, okay, maybe not the best execution of all that, but I enjoyed the kind of progression of the ride of the mystery.
Like one of my favorite films is Inherent Vice, which like when you hear the filmmakers talking about it,
still haven't watched.
It's like, the point was that you can't follow anything going on. It becomes about enjoying the characters and the situations and the look and the feel and all that, which then for me, you just read into so much more, versus kind of like in this movie, it was just, so there's that, and then she's going to go over here now. Okay, whatever.
Whatever's right.
you know. But even though you're more on board in this one and agreeing with me, I still felt like I could kind of key into that was, since we've been doing this, it's interesting to kind of highlight when and how we do differ.
Yep, totally. The only other thing I have is the lead actress, who I thought was fine. I enjoyed most of what she was doing. She is also in The Orphanage. She's the lead in The Orphanage.
Oh.
So, which leads me to... Do you have anything else?
Mm-mm.
Which leads me to say we should do recommendation, and mine is The Orphanage, because it's a much better movie.
Great.
And more enjoyable, and it's fun, and it looks great, obviously, because our friend Oscar shot it.
I am going to do something similar and recommend Dead, a film I mentioned earlier in this episode, which was the other Spanish film, Sleep Tight, Mientras Duermes. It's available on Shudder.
Cool.
I watched it, and it embraced not being supernatural like this one didn't, in a way that was very interesting and successful, and was from the perspective of the crazy person.
Right. Awesome. Well...
What's
Should we
next?
wrap it up? Let's wrap it up.
Next week's movie.
Let's do it.
Tim's
I'll grab
turn.
the hat here. Here we go. Here we go.
It's going to be...
Wait, why is this in here?
What is it?
Paranormal Activity 3.
Let's watch it and find out.
What? I've seen this.
I haven't. I've only seen the first Paranormal Activity.
Wait, have I seen this?
I've heard it was...
I'm pretty sure I watched this with my like writing partner and like directing partner, Shane. And I think we got really stoned, which is not something I do very often. But like, I think this was one of those nights where we were just like finished a writing session and we're like, let's just smoke a joint and watch a dumb fucking horror movie. And we watched it. So maybe it'd be fun to revisit it.
Well, I put in there because I'm fascinated by franchises, you know, especially, more contemporary. I mean, all of them. But this is a more contemporary one. I've only seen the first one of.
Okay.
And I've heard that if there's one sort of best one out of them, maybe excluding the first one, it's the third one.
Okay.
And I heard that from not just maybe, in the stratosphere and the whatever, but our friend of the podcast, Peter Warden, who recommended we do Arnold for his own personal reasons.
You motherfucker,
Right.
Peter. You motherfucker.
He mentioned that was one that he happened to see that he actually thought was better. Pretty sure he did.
Ooh,
And this is also an excuse for me just to watch all of the Paranormal Activities now.
I mean, I think I enjoy the first one. I think I like the
seeing
first
that
and
in
second one
theaters
enough.
Was the first one, like I remember seeing it at kind of like a free advanced screening at the ArcLight Dome. It was fun. It was
it's
second
fun,
next
for
to
sure.
seing Jackass 3D there. As far as like a group, kind of experience.
This will be interesting too because I think I was looking through I don't remember what it was. I was looking through movies, and it was probably when I was doing the letterbox thing. There are a lot of Paranormal Activities, like at this point. Like there's got to be at least 6 or 7 of them now.
I want to watch them all.
Because I kept coming across them and like wanting to click that I had watched it, and then being like, "Whoa, this is a different one."
Right. Well, as bad as they usually are,
There's like Ghost Dimension one, and there's like a Spanish one, or I don't know. There's a bunch.
This was this podcast, at least on my end, Tim, kind of evolved out of me and my friend Andrew. We'd just binge watch, like sort of focus on horror films, but we'd sort of focus on getting out all the big franchises out of the way. And we don't, as bad as they got, there's always something that's fascinating to me about how do they, in their kind of own funny way, a lot of the times, expand on this premise or story, try to make it work.
Right.
And so there's that in itself, which is why, to expound more on why this is in here. But also with the third one, I think they're interesting because it's sort of like, okay, the second one, we're just trying to figure out what a sequel can be. The third one, now maybe we've honed it a little better and can sort of do the sequel better in a sense.
Sure.
Like I think maybe this is most true. The best example is Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3 is kind of a fan favorite.
Yeah.
Dream Warriors.
Yep.
Is it where it's like great, we have, just the group of teenagers all working together to fight him. We learn a lot of like interesting stuff that expands on his evilness versus sort of ruining it, about his backstory. Yeah. Cool kills, found out what's worked. We just want that, making the most of the premise.
Yeah, I agree. I think you can kind of track, there's a lot of examples of the third movie kind of either saying, let's really shake it up and do a different thing because we've established that we've got you.
Yeah.
I think the third Halloween is known for that.
Yeah.
What else?
Third Friday the 13th is sort of another fan favorite.
Yeah. There's one, what
3D.
Is it the Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
I haven't seen past 2.
I feel like somebody had mentioned that recently. But anyway, you get the point. Yeah. Like, I think it is an interesting, discussion and thing to see how they choose to go with that third one. So this will be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can find us until then at dismemberinghorror.com. And we just joined Anchor, the platform for hosting our podcast, which we're enjoying much more than just having a RSS feed linked from our hosting website.
Yeah, and by no means is this an ad, but it's a cool, like, they do a really good job because now we can see how many people are watching it.
Well, yeah, and as far as just being able to say where to find us, well, we're on all their platforms. It's pretty cool.
So, there's a bunch. So
we're on Anchor, Breaker, Google Podcast, Pocket Cast, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Castbox, Overcast, and Radio Public.
Sweet. So yeah, and like shoot us a message if you want. I mean, I want to talk to more people and get their take on this. So we know obviously people are listening to it because we can track that. So hit us up. I'm at Tim Aslin on Instagram and Twitter, but also we have our own Twitter, which is DisHorrorPod.
Yeah,
so hit us up there.
Hit Tim on the Twitter.
I like talking to people. So.
Right. When Tim's saying that, you should refer to...
Yeah, go to DisHorrorPod.
At DisHorrorPod is the Twitter account, and at DismemberingHorror is the Instagram account. Yeah.
But also DM Ryan and just bother him.
Maybe I won't be bothered. Joke's on you, Tim.
Damn it.
Maybe I'll be the opposite of bothered.
He'll love it. He loves it.
All right. Well, Tim, we've been working on our wrap up here. I think I have some suggestions for it.
Okay.
So what is it this far? So we've had thanks for listening. One of us says, and then the other one says, we'll see you next time. And we both said bye.
This doesn't seem very horror oriented to me.
So here I'm addressing all our concerns. So I think it was that it didn't seem very horror-y.
Yeah.
And then the lead in itself was awkward for, going into that.
What if it was this?
Cool.
What if it was this? What if it was at the end of every episode, I just murder you?
I don't think we'd be able to do more than that.
Could just do it that one time?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Scratch that idea.
Can I tell you what mine was now?
Sure.
All right. So as a lead-in, that's better when instead of just trying to find a way to go straight into thanks for listening, I'll say, and in summation, or no, in closing, that's a better word.
Okay.
In closing, thanks for listening. And then you say, see you next time. And then as far as the more horror-y thing, rather than bye, we say goodbye. Because goodbye lends itself better to a play with it as we will eerie tone.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay. Well, everyone, in closing, thanks for listening.
We'll see you next time.
Goodbye.